Okay students, so this is our third video in the series of videos for independent terms learning for A-Level English Language. This is the year one of the two-year English Language Linear A-Level. We've already done word class and we've already done lexicons and semantics, so hopefully you've been tested on those by now. We're now onto the basics of grammar. So if you know your word classes really well already, this is going to be a lot easier. So if you're struggling with the starting point with grammar, grammar is all about sentences and how they're put together. You probably need to go back and look at word classes to really understand those 8 or 9 word classes very clearly. Because word class is about the classes of words and how they're used, what the job is they do, and grammar is all about how those words are put into sentences, how we build what we call clauses and then sentences out of those words. So grammar is like the system of English, really, like how things are put together in a series, in a system, rather than what the individual units are. So we're going to start with this test is going to be a bit shorter than other ones. It's just going to be on sentence type and sentence function, but there's quite a lot that you need to know in order to be able to accurately understand sentence type and sentence function. So what I've got in front of you here is a selection of different elements of sentences. I've got a selection of little conjunctions here, and then I've got some other ones in square boxes, which are going to be a little bit more complicated. We'll get to those in a minute. But the first thing that we're going to look at is just sentences, the different types of sentences that we can have. Okay, so the different types. Now I'm going to say type, and then I'm going to say mood or function, and you have to be okay that those are different things. There's 4 of each, but when I say type, I need you to understand what I'm talking about by type, and when I say mood or function, I need you to understand what I mean by mood or function, and you can't get them muddled up. So one of the things I'd do after this is make sure you're consistently sort of writing down your 4 sentence types and 4 sentence moods under the correct heading of mood and type or function and type once you've done the video, because there is a little point of confusion between them. But this first page is about type. It's not about function, it's not about mood, it's about type. And the 4 sentence types are simple, compound, complex, and minor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you simple sentences first of all. So there's several here that we can look at. So I went there, I locked the gate. If we have a look at that, I went there, I locked the gate. I went there, I locked the gate. These are all what we call simple sentences. Okay, simple sentences. And what that means is that they are of one clause. Okay, one clause. So I went there, I locked the gate. I went there, I locked the gate. These are one clause sentences. And the definition of a clause is that it has a subject and it has a verb. A subject and a verb. So the subject would be the thing or the person that is doing an action, and the verb would be the action itself. So we have a look here. I is the subject and went is the verb. I is the subject and locked is the verb. I and went, I and locked. So these are simple sentences made out of one clause. The definition of a clause is it has a subject and a verb. So that's what a simple sentence is. The compound sentence is pretty easy, really. The compound sentence is when you have 2 of those and you put what we call a coordinating conjunction in the middle. So if we have a look at this sentence here, I went there and I locked the gate. So you notice we've got that and we've got that. So we've got 2 subjects, and we've got that and we've got that. And we've got 2 verbs. And it could be different. It could be I went there and you locked the gate, or I went there and it locked the gate, or I went there and the ghost had locked the gate. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It's just that we can see we've got different subjects, different verbs. Okay? And you can also say that I locked the gate, I went there. They could be sentences on their own. So the thing to recognise with the compound sentence is that you've got 2 sentences that could be sentences on their own. They are one main clause each, and you're connecting them with what we call the coordinating conjunction, and that's these. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so, or fanboys is the way of remembering it. So these coordinating conjunctions of a particular type that coordinate, they bring together two distinct sentences. Okay, I went there and I locked the gate. Now, actually, there's an incident here in that in English we're actually allowed to omit the subject if it's the same one twice, but I'm not going to get into that because it's a little bit too complicated. So if this looks a bit clunky, it's because I'm trying to get you to see the sort of underlying rules of the grammar, really. But yeah, you could get rid of that, but it would look a little bit messy here. But I went there and I locked the gate. Those are two simple sentences, one clause each, and they're connected with one of these coordinating conjunctions, which leaves these ones down here then. So if we've got the compound sentence, which is two clauses which could be sentences on their own, main clauses could be sentences on their own, connected with a coordinating conjunction. What we've got here are what we've got here is a complex sentence. Okay, a complex sentence. So the complex sentence doesn't mean long. The simple sentence doesn't mean short. What complex means is that you've got one main clause and one what we call subordinate clause. And the definition of that is they're both clauses, so the definition was got a subject and a verb, but one could be a sentence on its own and one couldn't be a sentence on its own, or it certainly couldn't be a grammatically correct sentence on its own. So let's see what we've got. We've got I, it's the subject of this clause, and locked, which is the verb of that clause. So I locked the gate, that's one main clause. That could be a sentence on its own. You could make a simple sentence out of it. But when I got there, or when I went there, you've still got a subject, you've still got a verb, but if you were to put that on its own, would it be a sentence? When I got there. When I got there, full stop. Would that be a grammatically correct sentence? If the answer is no, then what you've got is a complex sentence. So again, don't let yourselves go. Complex means long. It doesn't. What complex means is that you've got one main clause and one subordinate clause. And I've just isolated that one here. When I went there, that is a subordinate clause. And so what we've got for subordinate clauses to make complex sentences are these, what we call subordinating conjunctions. Don't worry about these terms, I'm going to go back to them in a minute, and they are in your booklet. But these types of conjunctions tend to make attach subordinate clauses to main clauses. So they tend to make complex sentences. When I went there, I locked the gate. After I went there, I locked the gate. If I was to go there, I could lock the gate. Because I went there, I could lock the gate. Due to the fact I had got there, I locked the gate. Since I had arrived at the park, I decided to lock the gate. Or whichever way you look at it, I had locked the gate. These are the type of conjunctions that make complex sentences, and it's the key thing of if it is a clause as a subject and a verb, there they are, yeah, then it's a clause, not a phrase or a word, yeah, then, and it couldn't be a sentence on its own, then and it's attached to a main clause, then it's a complex sentence. So we've got simple sentences of one clause, we've got compound sentences of two clauses, and they could be sentences on their own. They're two main clauses with a coordinating conjunction, and they've got complex sentences, which is one or more main clauses and one or more what we call subordinate clauses attached with these types of conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions. Okay, just to make it slightly more complicated than that, though, I want you to have a look at this. This is where the word class comes in. I locked the gate in the morning. Now you go, well, that couldn't be a sentence on its own, Phil, so maybe that's a complex sentence. No, it's simple. It's a simple sentence because this is not a clause. You remember what the definition of a clause was? It's got to have a subject and a verb. So I locked the gate in the morning. This is a little phrase, smaller than a clause, bigger than a word, a phrase which gives information about when I did it. What gives information about when I did something? Oh yeah, adverbs. So this is an adverb phrase and not a clause because it doesn't have a subject and a verb. It's a little phrase. Likewise here, I locked the gate at the back of the building. Which gate? Or it's the gate at the back of the building. So we've got this little phrase here, which is giving information about where the gate is. So like a prepositional phrase, but it's not a clause because it doesn't have a verb here. It's got a subject, or you could say that was a subject, but it hasn't got a verb, so it's not a clause. However, so that one's simple too. It's a simple sentence, but with a prepositional phrase at the end. Whereas this one, I locked the gate, which I had previously painted. We look at it, we've got the subordinating conjunction, and is it a clause? Yes, because we've got a subject, and we've got well, we've got a verb phrase, haven't we? We've got had previously, and we've got a definite verb in painted. So that is a complex sentence. So that's the thing to look out for. Do you know what a clause is? Do you know what a phrase is? If you do, you can work out whether it's a simple, compound, or complex sentence, and you won't get be confused by the fact you've got adverbs and adverb phrases or prepositions and preposition phrases, which you have in the sentence, but it's still simple. I mean, you could actually have 27 adjectives before the word gate, and it would still be a simple sentence, because the definition of a simple sentence is one main clause. It doesn't matter how many adjectives you've got in there, how many prepositions, how many adverbs, it's one main clause, and a clause is a subject and a verb. It's a main clause if it could be a sentence on its own. Okay, so on to oh, no, wrong one. I beg your pardon. There we go. It's flipping over the page. There we go. Okay, so on to the next issue then, which is about function or mood. So that was all about type. This is all about function, or what we call mood. We can use those words interchangeably. They mean the same thing, okay? And these are them here. These are the 4 functions of sentences. So in the same way that we only ever have 4 sentence types, I haven't done the 4th one. I'll go back to that in a minute. I've done the first 3, simple, compound, complex. The 4th one's not really a proper sentence, so I'll go back to that in a moment. We've got 4 sentence functions, okay? Declarative, imperative, interrogative, and exclamative sentences, or exclamatory, some people say that, okay? So declarative is just another way of saying statements, okay? So declarative is statements, so things that you just sort of state. So it doesn't necessarily mean facts, it just means it's a statement. So vast majority of sentences in English are statements. The gate was locked, I locked the gate. They're statements, aren't they? They're just statements being said. So the gate was locked. So those are both what we'd call declaratives. They're declaring something, they're just saying something, okay? Interrogative, this one here, interrogative is questions. And of course, you tend to be able to see them by the use of the question mark, the interrogative. If you think you're interrogating someone in like a crime scene or something, or if you have an interview and you're interrogating someone, you're asking them questions, aren't you? So interrogative. And of course, they tend to have questioning words at the front, okay? The other one would be what we call the exclamative, which is this one here, and that's simply, it's got an exclamation mark at the end. It's a simple exclamation mark at the end. And then we've got the imperative, which is a command. Okay, now I've done 3 of these because it's a little bit more complicated. So commands tend to have verbs near the front. So if we look at this, lock the gate, that's an imperative because it's got a verb at the front. It's a command. It's telling you to do something. This one, okay, the verb's not at the front there, Phil, but you think that one is modifying that important word there. So you look at it and go, well, is that a command to do something? Well, yeah, please quickly lock the gate. Please quickly lock the gate. That's just telling us how and in what way to do it, but that is the most important word. So it's an imperative. It's a command, okay? And then here we've got do it, lock the gate. Now, even though those end in exclamation marks, you wouldn't get that wrong by saying it's an exclamative. It is, but they're also imperatives. So don't think the one with exclamatives is quite interesting because different ones can be exclamatives. You know, you might even have done it yourself in text messaging, a question mark plus an exclamation mark. It's sort of an interrogative, exclamative in that sense. Or you might have something which is a declarative and you add an exclamation mark. So exclamatives tend to be more like, expressing big emotions, stuff like that. But here we've got do it, lock the gate. They're still imperatives as well as exclamatives in that way. But so the basic rule of thumb is that statements are declaratives, questions are interrogatives, commands are imperatives, and sort of, if it's got an exclamation mark, it's an exclamative, but that doesn't stop it being other things as well with the exclamatives. Okay, so back to the types of sentences then. These were the sentence types, the other ones were the functions or moods. We've got a simple, compound, and complex. The other one to talk about would be the minor sentence, and that just means a sentence that isn't a proper sentence, a sentence that is perhaps a little phrase or a single word or a subordinate clause on its own, so sort of like a non-standard sentence. And so we've got simple, compound, complex, and minor, and then we can flip back over and look at our examples and add the 2 things together. So we can always say for any sentence what the sentence type is and what the function or mood is. So if I say the gate was locked, we agreed that was simple. It's a declarative, so we can say it's a simple declarative. I lock the gate. One subject, one verb. It's simple and it's declarative, so we say it's a simple declarative. Was the gate locked? The gate and locked. One clause. We've got the question word, so it's a simple interrogative. Do you want to lock the gate? Do you want to lock the gate? That's the subject, is you. The action is to lock. You want to lock, so it's simple interrogative. But look at this one. Locked. Locked. What's missing? It's the subject, isn't it? We've got a verb, but we haven't got a subject, so it doesn't fulfill the criteria for a clause, so it's a minor exclamative. A minor exclamative. It's not a full sentence. It's like one word. It's a word or a phrase or a subordinate clause. It's not a full sentence. Couldn't stand on its own, and it's an exclamative, a minor exclamative. But lock the gate, there's your verb, there's your thing you're telling me to lock. So this is sort of the subject of what you're locking. So that's a simple imperative. Please quickly lock the gate, simple imperative, and then do it. Questionable, but I'd say that was a simple imperative, and lock the gate, simple imperative. So terms we need to understand then, we need to know what a clause is. Yeah, a group of words with a subject and a verb. A conjunction, you should know that from doing word class already. Words that connect words, phrases and clauses together. Subordinating conjunctions, remember? These ones here, when, after, if, because, due to, since, which. Coordinating conjunctions, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Okay, simple coordinating conjunctions, simple sentence, one clause. Yeah, could be a sentence on its own, one main clause. Compound sentence, two clauses with a coordinating conjunction in between. Two main clauses with a coordinating conjunction in between. Complex sentence, not long. Complex means one main clause, which could be a sentence on its own, and one or more subordinate clauses, which couldn't be sentences on their own. And then we've got the subordinate clause, so that's a clause, it is a clause, does have a subject and a verb, but couldn't be a sentence on its own, and a main clause, which could be a sentence on its own. Yeah, so it could be a grammatically correct sentence on its own. And that's it. We've got 4 sentence types, that is simple, compound, complex, and minor. Minor not being a proper sentence. We've got 4 sentence functions on mood, which is declarative, imperative, interrogative, and exclamative. And that's it. So get back to your booklets. I think it's on page 8, isn't it, in the booklets to go over these again. And you'll be tested on those in your next few lessons.